Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It's the blackest hearted man on social media, sign of black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm going to use their names even though I didn't ask permission ahead of time because I'm not jumping into their beef. I'm weighing in to remind both of them of something that was forgotten. You see, when you're in a Western market, like the one that you are living in and I left, you forget that it's skewed. If you lived outside of the U.S., but the other nation you lived in was a Western nation, then you still lived in a skewed area. And it's easy to forget how skewed the market is and how unrealistic and how unnatural it is compared to everywhere else. There are elements of hybristophilia in other cultures, isolated, off and on, but it is not a universal standard by which women judge men. And the ironic thing is that you find it in its most exaggerated form in the West, where it is the least necessary for survival. And that's because you find it coming out of specifically the exceptional areas of the West in which it was necessary for survival. Anyway, take a canary. If you want to use the canary in the coal mine to assess the gas inside of the mine, you have to make sure that the canary is not super clever and just wants to always be out in the sun, because if so, the canary it has an excuse to always pretend to pass out when it goes deep into a coal mine, so that everyone will leave and grab the cage, take it with them, and go back into the sun. This is the problem. You live in an area where the canaries are smart, they're clever, and they want to be in the sun all the time. And so it's in their best interest to pass out right off the bat. As soon as they get to the entrance of the cave and they can't see the sun anymore, pass out. In other words, it's in their interest to mislead you. So they act as though they're natural and normal, but they're not. They're more hybristophilic and at later ages than other women are. They're more disrespectful, and for less reason and with less provocation than non-Western women. Studies have been done on different dating sites, and a man has about a 1 in 10,000 chance. Most men will have a 1 in 10,000 chance of meeting for a date a lady off of that. Multiple men get funneled to women. When the women are that skewed, when they have that Lois Lane syndrome and the Cinderella syndrome, then you don't really win with them and you don't really lose with them. Well, you lose, but you don't win. Everybody loses, really. You can be chosen by them for certain things, but you can't really be alpha enough to where you don't still lose when you're with them. And I know it sounds easy for me to say, but see, I've been both chosen and unchosen in different regions of the U.S., actually in different situations. But the situations under which I was chosen required me to have less of a conscience and to even be unfair sometimes, or at least appear to be unfair. And I look back and I now realize that my friends who were select for other reasons still became unselected or lesser selected because they had good hearts and consciences. I told people in my audience 2 days ago about my childhood friend that looked like Garfield Bright from the singing group Shy. Women should have been flocking to him. Do you know what they did? They only flocked to him when they were not that nice to look at. They had to not be nice to look at, or not as nice as the others. They treated him like he was a 7 or a 6 when he was an 8 in their eyes, because he was a good guy with a conscience. He could whoop your behind. He could also dunk on you, but he would not whip somebody for no reason at all. And that's where everything was different. He was a good kid and a good person as an adult, and that's all it took. Nothing else. He went from 8 to 6. He wasn't the only one. He's the example of which I can remember the best. That's all. So, that being said, at the end of the day, had he lived here, had he grown up here as part of this society, he would have had few opportunities, because everybody has them, not because he has a conscience. In today's time, had he been from here, same guy, but being from here, he would not be disrespected, and he would not be automatically entitled to less than the looks that he brings to the table when he brings everything else that he brings to match them up. The way that you can know that nobody's really alpha enough there is, as I said before, simply put, look at Malcolm. He worried he was being cheated on. If Alex Haley told that story correctly, he worried he was being cheated on. There are rumors that Nelson Mandela was cheated on when he was locked up. Now, this because he was locked up, but the rumors are still there. Look at Matt Barnes. Look at Johnny Depp. And as a matter of fact, there is if you really want to be able to study Western women's sexuality, you can listen to their interviews. Listen to the porn actresses' interviews. Where I am, porn is blocked. Great. This means that I can find the interviews without the actual material and listen to what they say. And it stunned me to find out that one of the most popular male actors, who's also one of the most successful, at least according to the interviewer, was blamed falsely or falsely accused by his spouse, who was in the business of being into other men, and he wasn't. And so I'm saying this to say to you all that in that market, when it's skewed like that, you really can't brag that you won. And you can't rub it in someone else's face that they lost, because you're dealing with a broken thermometer in the first place. And you can't be hot enough in the first place. Johnny Depp was abused and then lied on. Matt Barnes, look at what he went through. Some of you know better than I do what he had to go through. You can go and you can go into these courtrooms, and you can see who gets drug in front for child support. It doesn't really matter. You can never be so alpha that they don't want the child support from you if they can get it. So, sorry, but there's really no reason to beef. Solution is in the passport. Like I've been saying, it's actually a necessity. I hope that one day everything I said won't be true anymore. In the meantime, I hope it helps. Assalamu alaikum.